Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. This is September the 10th of 2024 and we are on our 2-week countdown to Quilt Club Week. We are so excited to bring you Quilt Club Week with all the wonderful teachings and tips and hints that we have. And today we're going to be teaching and doing the Henhouse. And you're like, the Henhouse block? What in the world is a Henhouse block? Well, do you see these little flying geese going at an angle inside that square? This is just as easy as it can be to get all these little chicks inside their hen house. It is so easy to do with what we call option 3 flying geese, and then also option 6, which is use your imagination and put other things together to come up with a new block or a new triangle unit. And we call those options. And we're going to get started on that teaching here in just a moment. But we always have a special sale and some items that we want you to know about before we get started with our teaching. And it gives you a bonus for that sale and special. It allows you to know about it without searching all over the website. But you can go to our website, which is squareinaSquare.com. and just put in the search bar sale and it will start popping up all the different things that we have. Now some of our things that are on sale, of course, are limited quantities because we're down to the end of that inventory of that item, and so we're ready to move out the last few that we have. So our sale will go to the end of September or until that supply runs out. And I think in about 2 weeks, by the time we start our Quilt Club Week, a lot of these items I'm going to show you are going to be gone. Now, of course, some we can reorder on the different notions and stuff, and we'll do that. But I want to show you, first of all, so that I can clean my table off and we can have some room to work. I first of all want to highlight some of the baskets. These are all, let's do camera maybe number 2. All of these are Longaberger baskets, and I love my baskets for sorting. It just makes my playtime and my work time more fun and more organized. So this is a bigger one, and it has a liner in it. So this is big, nice for your taller items to stack them up and put them there on your work table and area. And these smaller ones like this are great to put your little notions in or to help sort your pieces that you're working on. So I have, these are going to be my little chicks for my hen house. I have them all in there, all organized and ready. And these here are all great for that. This one's good for your tall stand-up. This one has great dividers in it, so it'll keep your things from just running loosey-goosey in here. But this comes out, so if you, and it has another plastic liner in there, so if you want to use it as like a tray to just put your pieces in. I love to have my stuff sorted in different areas. One lady emailed just about a week ago, and she said she was watching a quilt talk that Kay and Kathy and I did, and in that quilt talk we were talking about keeping your sewing room clean, and an email came and said to me, why don't, an email came and said to me, I'm trying to get my cameraman with me. An email came to us and she said, I saw the video of Kay and Kathy and you guys talking about keeping your sewing room organized and together. And she said, I have so many projects everywhere. I'm just overwhelmed. And I certainly understand that. I'm kind of in that boat right now because I've got all of these early teachings for Quilt Club Week. I've got Quilt Club Week teachings. Our fall semester has started, so I've got those Monday teachings going. And I can tell you that if I didn't have my projects organized and in a location in my room, my sewing room, or in trays or baskets, then I would just you guys wouldn't get what you need because I'd just be too overwhelmed. So it's great to be able to just pick that up, go to your sewing machine, work on that for however long you have, put your stuff back, set it back over. It'll really help keep you organized and structured. And then here you can kind of see the different baskets. I only have 7. This is out of my private collection. Over the last 2 years, people have seen me, well, multiple years, they've seen me use my baskets and they're like, how can we get some? So I had such a nice collection, I decided to let some of mine go. I still have plenty to work with, but as I see them up here, I'm like, oh, I really like that one. Maybe I need to take that one back. I could use that for my whatever. So take advantage of these. They're great prices. They're longer burgers, and I'm probably going to put them back in my collection here in a few days if you guys don't take me up on the offer. So go in and search for those baskets and get yourself organized and get some fun. To me, it's just fun. Grab my wool. This is a little wool applique I've got going. I can just pick it up, walk over to my iPad and watch something, and then have all my supplies I need right there ready to roll. So let's get these out of our way. And we'll look at something else that we have. Okay, so we have some fabrics that we have on sale, and we have 12 pieces. They're 2-yard pieces, and there's 12 different ones, so that's 24 yards. It's normally over $300 for that collection of fabric, but we have it on a special where you can get 2-yard pieces. There's 12 of them for, I think it's $199, so you're saving over $100 if you take advantage of this. So let's look down here on this particular one. Is this our far camera? There we go. Okay, so we have our blue tattered and torn, our blue check, our blue eagle flag. There's an eagle and a flag on there. It has our 250-year celebration, 1776 to 2026. This is all for America's 250th birthday that is coming up. You'll want these fabrics so that you can make some beautiful things. And in last week's webinar, I showed you a lot of quilts where we use these fabrics. So here's 4 that are in the blues. Here are 4 that are in the red. We have a green flag, blue flag, red flag, and then the light. Can we bring they can't see these light colored ones. Do I need to bring them, or you can come out? Okay, so here are the other. So these are the 12 that you're going to get in the bundle. You're going to get a 2-yard piece of all of it, and our sale price is $199, and we just have a couple of those left, and then those 2-yard bundles will be all gone. Now, we started another offer on these 12 fabrics where you can get a 6-yard piece, and you can get the 6 yards for $50. So when you break these down, that's about $8.20 or so a yard. So great fabrics, great price. Take advantage of these while we have them and get ready for America's birthday. Okay, now we have, so these are on sale, and we are getting close to the end of inventory on those. Now these next ones here that I want to show you, they are what I call endangered in the wild. So that means they are still able to be sold, but they are in danger of being all gone, and pretty soon they will only exist in captivity of your stash of your sewing room. So this one is the one that we call the fuzzy leaf. And this one has been flying out of here. I've been telling you, I didn't realize that we were getting so close to the end of inventory on it. But this is a great background. We've used it in so many different quilts. And you'll see more of those coming as we keep showing you ones for Quilt Club Week. And people are buying this at 10 yards of wax. So it doesn't take long for the fabric to get gone when people are buying 10 yards, 5 yards, and everything in a big hunk. These right here are all the regular price, but like this one, I think this is the red tattered and torn. I think we have 2 half-yard pieces left. So you can tell that's, definitely endangered. This one is the black check, and we're going to go back in with some new colors in our checks and some new colors in our tattered and torns and our backgrounds. And so if you are interested in any of these checks that have been just a staple in our inventory, then you need to jump in and get them. This one, there's maybe like 3 pieces left of it. This one, there's maybe like 10 pieces left of it. This one's got like 10 left. This one has just a little bit of inventory, but as many kits as we have made out of this. And I'm working on it for our fall semester quilt. This one will be all gone, I would say, before the end of the year. And then this one is one of our flag tone on tones. I don't know if you can see that little bit of flag on there. This one, these are all regular price, but they're very limited on the quantities. And then like our blue check, I think I have this 4-yard piece, I have a 5-yard piece, I have a 6, a 7, and a 10, and that's it on that blue and black check. You're going to love the new checks that we have coming next year. And what I was going to say about this one here is this one's always a medium. That's what I love about the checks is you can pretty much read them as they are, no matter what other colors you're putting with them. When I do my color lectures and theory, I always come back to this one. This one is always a medium, no matter what light you put with it, no matter what dark you put with it. Look how beautiful that is. Go on the website and look for Poinsettia Star Kit, where we've done a beautiful quilt out of 3 colors like this. Just wonderful. Now this one here is on sale. You can get a 6-yard piece of it for $50, and I think we only have like 5 of those, so not very many. So take advantage of all of that. I know I moved pretty quickly on all of it, but I just wanted you to know that it's available and that to take advantage of the sales. We don't do sales very often. Now these are what we call end of bolts. So I always put on it, it's 88 inches total, $20. And so, you know, you may have a 10-yard piece, an 8-yard piece, a 20-inch piece. So we just added up. So this is over 2 yards. This one's over 2 yards. So there's only a couple of these end of bolts. Take advantage of it. And we don't have those very often, because most of the time I take the end of bolts and use them in my stash. This is the 2 Farmer Wife books. You can order this one separately at regular price, but this is the only one we have of it, and if you get the bundle where we have them together, you can save a nice amount of money on that one. And there's just one of those, just one of the sets. Now, let's come to camera 2 and let's look at this right here. Okay, so these are 3 little books that we have. This one is the Henhouse one, and this is the one that I'm going to teach out of today. I think next week we're teaching Firefly on Tuesday, and then the Snowball block we teach in Quilt Club Week. Now, and we have a special right now where you can get all 3 of these, and I told you the regular prices and sale prices last week, and I did not look today to say that, but you can get all 3 of these and save at least $10, maybe $15, I think. So it's probably like getting one of them free. And you're going to see a lot of quilts out of Henhouse today, and you're going to see at least 1 quilt.
Put the word sale
here. Just put sale in the search bar.
That's on the website.
On the website. And all of these different things I'm showing you will pop up so that you can see what we got going on. And like I said, the sale will go to, these items I'm showing you will go to the end of the month or until we run out of them. So, okay, so this one we're teaching today, Henhouse Firefly. We're going to teach some of it next week, next Tuesday. And then just quickly to go through the books and the rulers. These are the 3 main books we are teaching out of all of these in the Quilt Club weeks. And the cool thing about Quilt Club Week is that when you join up, you get to see 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then our new one, 2024, that is starts 2 weeks from today. We'll be in the middle of it, going. 34 quilts in here. Gold Rush, one of the ones you're going to see today is in here. The diamonds, I'm going to show you some diamonds today. And of course, this is your main book for your diamonds, and then this is the main book for your square. So for those of you that are brand new and you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, everything we do either comes out of the basic square in the middle with strips on the side, or this basic diamond. So this is the book that teaches you everything with the square, and this is the book that teaches you everything with the diamond. And we're going to cover option 3 today with our Henhouse, and I'm going to show you the diamond, some trimming on it for one of the quilts that we're going to demo. Now we facilitate all of this with our tools. This is our Grande tool. There's a 20 or 40 minute long video on the website. Just look for the Grande, the multi-purpose ruler, put that in the search bar. It'll go to the product. There's a video there, and you can see all the different things that you can do with it. And then this one right here with the Quick and Easy, this is the one that we say is the original. And this is the one that we always recommend that you get if you don't have anything. And then this one is the mini, and you don't have to have both of them, but I use both of them a lot. And I use the mini unless my work that I'm working on is too big, which generally is not. Only maybe like 1 out of, I'm going to say, 40 quilts that I make, do I have to grab another ruler and not use the mini on it. So the mini, don't confuse it with size. It's for convenience of your workspace and convenience with your fabric is what it's all about. It's the size of the ruler has nothing to do with the size of the block or the size of the quilt, okay? All right, so sometimes I just kind of skip right over those products and I forget. There are some of you that are brand new and don't know about any of this, and you haven't watched our previous webinars or classes. Also 3 novels that are consecutive on the front. You can see this one's number 3, part 3, Threads of Home, Threads of Change, Threads of Courage, and there'll be more if I can clone myself and get a little bit more time. I have the 4th one going. I love the storyline on it, but I just can't get to it to finish. Okay, so we're going to jump right in here and start teaching, but I wanted to, I always like to read reviews and text messages and everything because that helps those of you who are new to us, maybe never bought our fabric, never done any of our stuff. It helps you find out a little bit more about it. And these are, of course, just ones that people send to us. And this one says, Jodi, I've been totally immersed in your videos, and you so often recommend to watch them over and over and over again. And she said, I have been doing it. She said, I have embedded it in my brain. I constantly have a video going. And she said, the Firefly, which is, we're going to show a little bit of it today and more next week, is really starting to come together for me. And wow, what a game changer. So a Firefly is when you have a whole lot of half square triangles together in a row in a quilt, and you kind of make them all at once. And it's just crazy. You can go in to the website and look up a Firefly video, and about a year ago and a few months ago in the spring of 23, I did a whole webinar showing you everything of the Firefly, and that's really going to be your best in-depth video on the technique. Other places where I do it, I don't go as far into detail on the teaching of it. And she said, I just want you to know that as I'm sewing and learning, I have gained even more appreciation for your teaching and the amazing value of Premium Club and Quilt Club Week. And I'll tell you about Premium Club and Quilt Club Week here in just a moment. I'm a national board certified teacher of mathematics, and I would like for you to know that wholeheartedly I believe your teaching in the quilt world is equivalent of you holding a national board certification, teacher certification in the amazing Square and a Square system. Yay, thank you. I am so very appreciative of your system and the extremely high quality of teaching and production that you and Steve worked so hard to bring us. I hope all Premium Club members and Quilt Club members appreciate what a treasure you guys really are. So for those of you that are new, again, Steve is my husband, retired pharmacist, and he is now our IT guy. He does all the website, he does all of the videos, just everything so that we can bring this right into your home online. And we so appreciate Steve. Round of applause for him. It wouldn't matter what I taught, if I was a good teacher or a lousy teacher, if we didn't have Steve back there to bring it to you. I spent 40 years on the road, and maybe the last 7 or so. Steve was retired and went with me all the time, but it's a hard life being on the road, and we really are enjoying being at home since COVID and being able to do all of this online for you. So this one more, it says, what amazing material and such quality. It can be scary ordering fabrics online, but I never have to worry with the square in a square fabrics. And then another one says, you've created a monster in me. I'm dissecting all kinds of blocks and quilts after the Farmer's Wife class. I'll probably never buy another book, just look at pictures. So let's talk a little bit about Premium Club and Quilt Club Week. But before I get started on that, Steve says we have a question. Yay. Does the original ruler do everything? Yes. That's why we always recommend that you start with the original ruler, because it's not like, oh, yeah, to cut your diamonds, you need to have this one over here. That's why we always recommend the original ruler, because it does from small to large on any size that you want to do, and it does all of the different options that we teach. And I want you to think about that, you know, over 35, almost 40 years ago is when I started the square and a square system. And here we are with option 44, and it's still the same ruler that we're using. So my idea is teaching you and giving you the knowledge and the education and the power with that one ruler and the system. I don't want you to have to keep buying rulers and buying different sizes. I'm about teaching and the tools that we need to teach. I'm not about having a business and selling you a product and that you've got to get all these other sizes and all these other tools. That's when I started doing this almost 40 years ago. I was like, I had a mentor that said, Jodi, you've got to make the ruler. You got to make the ruler. And I was like, but I don't want people to have to buy a ruler to do my stuff. And she said, a lot of people don't want to learn the angles, don't understand the angles, or forgot the angles, and they want to just sit down and enjoy and sew. So she said, you've taken all the math out of this. You've taken all the hard work out of it. She said, please make your customers, your students, make them a ruler so that this becomes easier for them, for everybody, whether they're an engineer or whether they're, you know, whatever. It makes it easier from that whole, no matter where you're at in your learning. And so I took her advice and I jumped out there and made the ruler, and wow, it's been an exciting 40-year long road. Okay, more reviews, but we'll do those later. I think you get the idea. And eventually, you're just going to have to jump out there and trust me and do it. All of our members did that, and their emails, what we see in almost every email is, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? You know, I knew about you years ago, but I didn't do it, and I wasted years of time by not going in there and learning your system and making the projects and the quilts. Okay, so let's do Premium Club and Quilt Club Week, give you a little bit of information on that, and then we'll jump in with our teaching. So Premium Club started like 16, 17, something like that, so quite a few years ago. Every year we have 2 semesters. We have a fall semester that has about 12 to 15 classes in it every Monday. And then our our fall semester has about 9 to 10 classes in it every fall. We start about Labor Day time and we go to the holidays of mid-November. And we teach every Monday. And all of those, each class stands on its own, but there's also an overall theme, overall project, as well as all of the other little projects. And I always tell everybody, it's not about the quilt that you're making. It's about what you're learning as you're going through the process of doing that. So it's not just, oh, look at this quilt. Here, make a half square triangle. Put it in this spot. Use a blue and a white, and there you go. It's not like that at all. The classes each Monday go about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours, almost every one of them. Last spring when we did Farmer's Wife, this is I always tell everybody you get downloads, your patterns are in here, so whatever we're doing that Monday, 9 out of 10 times, there's just a print off like this that you have, and it comes with it. It's not an additional fee, okay? So yes, our teaching website is squareandasquare.net, and that's where you go for our teaching websites. whether it's Premium Club, whether it's Quilt Club Week, or are the
Free
webinars
webinars.
there
Yeah.
now? The webinars are there now. So the
You can sign
webinars
up on
are the free ones like I'm doing right now. So you can go to squareandasquare.net, jump into the webinars where the free ones are, and then of course if you're a Premium Club, you would go into the Premium Club, and if you're Quilt Club Week, then you would go into the Quilt Club Week. So Premium Club are these semesters, so we have like 17 semesters in there. And last fall, we took the Farmer's Wife book and we adapted the patterns to Square and a Square. And so just last spring, there were over 35 blocks, over 94 pages of information that you got that came along with it, and over 30 hours of teaching. And that's just one semester. So it's a value that I don't know how I do it for the price that we do it for. I don't know how we do it. So, because it's about the love of what I do. That's how we do it. So anyway, that's Premium Club. And Premium Club is like the top of the heap. That gets you everything. That gets you Premium Club. It gets you Quilt Club Week. It gets you all the webinars. You're on the email list, so you know all about the sales and the promotions. And then also when a new fabric line comes in, we always have a promotion for it, and that's when you're going to get the best price. That's when you get the discount. It's when it first comes in and we start unpacking it. And our new fabric sale will start October 1, right after Quilt Club Week on a Tuesday. So mark that on your calendar. You don't want to miss the promotion of the new fabric, and be able to get in on those specials that we have. Okay, and then there's Quilt Club Week. Quilt Club Week I designed in 2020 when everybody was on lockdown and we realized that 2 weeks was really going to be 2 years. So I was like, we cannot go to these quilt shows. So how can I make an online quilt show and make it fun and exciting? So you go to the quilt show to have fun, to see new things, to watch demos, look at some vendors, some new fabric, maybe a new tool, set in a lecture, a seminar, take a class, you know, just to get your mojo going and get some good ideas going. Yesterday we had our first class for a Premium Club for this fall semester, and one of the emails we got yesterday was like, oh my gosh, all the different information and ideas that you gave us yesterday. She's like, I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed in a good way with so many ideas. I'm making a list. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. That's what we love, is to get your creativity going. That's what we want to do. So Quilt Club Week helps do that. Now, Quilt Club Week is, if you'll go back and watch the first 2 videos that we did in this 6-week march towards Quilt Club Week, I had a bunch of quilts up here. I showed you what we're going to be teaching. I showed you what books they were in and told you a little bit about it. And we'll do that again maybe that Sunday, Monday of Quilt Club Week, which is like 2 weekends from now. So we'll show you those again, but you can go back and watch those other videos. And then the cool thing with the online stuff is that you can go in and watch it over and over again. And so maybe you were all involved in doing it, and then, you know, the dog got out and you had to stop, and, you know, and then all this trash can rolled down the road, and it's 2 weeks before you get back. Well, you know what? You go back in and you just pick up on the video teaching of whatever it is that you were watching. It's not like, oh, sorry, that was a 3-hour class and now it's over. So it's just gone. Online, you get to go back and do it over and over again. And I love that one of Steve's little sayings that he has is that quilting never sleeps. So no matter what time zone you're in, no matter what part of the world you're in, what you work the night shift or whatever, you're ready to go in there and watch whenever you want to do that. Okay, and with Quilt Club Week, we have lots of different classes, lots of different lectures, have all these little individual quilts that we teach. And one thing that I really love before we get into the actual sewing and the teaching of making the quilt is we have a lecture on that quilt. We'll show you the quilt, we'll show you different colors, we'll talk about if you rearrange your colors and do the lights here and the darks here. So we really give you a creative mojo seminar before you get into the sewing of the quilts. And one of those that we did last year, Sherry, one of my teachers, and I, We did one on the Storm at Sea. We did the lecture before. We showed you, and this Storm at Sea one really, really, really encapsulates what I want people to learn, and that is that there's all these different squares, rectangles, all these different shapes that go inside these, and how you just start switching these puzzle pieces out and changing your color a little bit, and it's a totally different quilt, and I'm going to show you that today with the Storm at Sea. Now, one thing I did forget was, don't forget to check out online our train fabric. It's the Transcontinental Railroad. We've got track fabric, a little element fabric, the panel, so don't forget to check those out. That's a pretty cool fabric line, and whether you've got a history buff of a family member that would love this, a train quilt, and we've had the train fabric a while, so we've shown a lot of quilts over the last couple of years with our train. Whether you have a historian or maybe you have a little boy that loves a train, but anyway, that is a great one to go to. Okay, so we told you about Premium Club, about Quilt Club Week, about all of our sales stuff. Anything I forgot before we get into the teaching? Any questions from anyone? You can type in a question wherever. Steve will give it to me when I stop to take a breath.
You're rocking and rolling today.
Yeah, do you see this little thing? I got wound up back here this morning. Just
You
crank,
did.
crank, crank, crank. Okay, all right, let's work. Let's do some fun work. I'm not a coffee drinker either, and I don't do any soft drinks, so this is just me. Living the dream. Loving the high. Okay. So here's your basic square. Every quilt we make, no matter what color, no matter what size, no matter what pattern, no matter what triangle shape we want, it's going to start out just like that. So you can see how you can switch up your colors. Of course, colors don't, any fabric, it doesn't matter. So option one is when you take your ruler and trim it up, and we're going to do these here in just a moment, but I like to tell you and then show you and then tell you and then show you and all that. So, okay, so everything starts out with your square in the middle, strips on the side. You trim, leaving the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners, and this is an option one. And we'll see that in some of the quilts as we go along. That's the very beginning one. Option 2 is when you just sew around it again. Of course, strips get wider, sew around it again, you get bigger triangle units coming off. Option 3 is flying geese. With flying geese, you leave that 1/4 of an inch on 2 corners. You do what we call the 2-step on 2 corners. That trims it nice and sharp, and you cut through there because we have to move these points and create a seam allowance in here where there wasn't one. And so that's why we have to trim up to the tip. And of course, when I cut through here, it looks like that. You can turn them and do your traditional flying geese or borders, or I love a ribbon border when the up, down. So flying geese are in just about everything. And then half square triangles is when you just 2-step all 4 corners and cut again. So see that half square triangle. And what I love with this method is that, so I love scrappy and multiple fabrics in my quilt. I very seldom use less than 12 different fabrics in a quilt, but I love it that I can get 4 different half square triangles out of 1 square. Just put a different color on each side, see? And I would have a green one and a red one, a blue one, and a solid red one. So if I did half square triangles out of this one, I would have 4 different ones. Or I can do them all the same and have 4 that are the same. So 3 things to understand, and if you understand these 3 things, then you are good to go. Everything starts out just like this, and we call this the basic square, and this is the center square, and these are the surround strips. You can trim leaving a 1/4 of an inch. You can do it on all 4 corners or 2 corners, whatever we need to make that shape. And the other thing is the 2-step. So basic square, leave a 4th, 2-step. And if you understand those 3 things, then you you are good to go and you're ready to rock and roll. So let's look at how we would trim. Leaving a fourth. So here's my ruler right here. I've got a glare right there. There we go. That's better. I'll cover it up. How about that? Okay, so when you look at your ruler, you can see this first set of lines that come together and they touch right there, and that's the 90-degree angle or arc that is in there. And then see these other lines that ripple off of that side and ripple off of this side. This, when you move over, so if you have your 90 in there and you move over 1, 2, 2 lines, so you move over 1, 2, so you step over, step 1, step 2, and you put the tip of that line right in the tip or corner of that square, and it lines up on there, and that does your 2-step trim. So let's trim a fourth. So when I put the 90 in here, do you see that 1/4 of an inch right there? That's your 1/4 of an inch. See how your black lines go right over your seam? Your grid line shoots right through that opposite corner, and this tells you that everything is square and good, and that it's going to be a nice, clean-looking unit. So make that cut just like that. There's your 1/4 of an inch. And if I was doing an option 1 square and a square, I would repeat that and do that on all 4 sides. So just turn and repeat. Now, once you have a cut made, you've got to look at your horizontal or vertical lines on your ruler, and where you've cut, you've got to make sure that they're parallel and that they're neat. They're not always going to line up perfectly on there. Sometimes they could be like this in between a line, but you can tell if that edge of the fabric under the ruler, if it's nice and parallel with a line. And you've got to keep these outside edges nice and clean and square. Okay, so I would do it like that and make my cut, and it would be my second one, and just continue on around. If I want flying geese, and that's what I'm doing today, then I'm going to 2-step 2 opposite corners and leave the 1/4 of an inch. So I would go 1, 2. It's going to be nice and sharp in that corner. There will be no 1/4 of an inch off of that point, and that's what we want. So there's, see how that's nice and sharp? See how that has the 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to flip it and do my 2-step right there. Put my 90 in and step it. Now I look here and here where I've already cut, and does my work underneath the ruler look clean and neat, or does it look crooked? See, that looks nice and neat, but see, if it looked like that, then that would be crooked, and that would make this line here not a good straight line when I get ready to sew it into my next work. And then, of course, 1/4 of an inch on the opposites. Now we also have a quilt text hotline, and let me tell you, it was hot yesterday. We had a lot of people asking questions, learning how to find stuff in their books, showing quilts. How do I make this quilt? And that quilt text hotline is 817-713-2879. Send me a picture, send a text. I'll make a little video and send it back to you. I was a quilt detective with a lady yesterday. Her half square triangles were too big, and after some pictures and videos and information back and forth, we found out her center square was not the right size, and that's why her units didn't turn out. So now I want to come in here and cut where those 2 steps are, just right through those corners. And look at your lines, make sure that you're staying square, and there you go. There's your flying geese, just like that. Now, of course, there's lots of things that you can do with them. Maybe we could do that. And you can always, these were just scrappy, but you can play around with your colors. Let's see, maybe you want to do it like that, and then see how that green bounces back and forth. Okay, so now let's look at how we can take these flying geese and turn them into our hen house. So this is what I'm talking about. See how I have this tray and I have all of my goodies on it? You can have your projects on a tray in a basket. These trays you can get at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, any home good type store. They have, this one actually came with this big one, another one, and then so it had a large, medium, and a small on it. And then your baskets to help keep you organized. So you can put everything back on here, set it over somewhere, bring another project out, and then that way you can stay organized with what you're doing. Okay, so did we pull the camera out so we can get, is that a biggest shot as we can get? A little bit more, please. Yes, I want more. Okay, so let's look. So see, look at the, now in Quilt Club Week, Kay taught a class, I think it's in this year's class, about how to make little project bags, and it's nice that you can see through them. So on the front, you can do your clear. On the back, you can put like an ornament block or something on there, or you can do it plain. But that way you can see what's in there. And this is all of my steps of where I'm at with a hen house. Now, I always like to have a scrap quilt going. This one, I think I started 2 years ago. And just as I get more little scraps, then I just make up more basic squares. So you can see here in this little basket, all of my basic squares. So look, you know, that's a size that, I don't know what that is, maybe a 2-inch, 2.5. But you know, that's a good little scrap right there. And just sew your strips around it and get your basic square. And then when you're ready to, like yesterday, it was such a beautiful day. I hated to go inside and work. Well, I could take my cutting mat and take these and go sit out in the shade in the patio, and I could work outside and enjoy that beautiful day. So here are my basic squares from my scraps. And in Quilt Club Week, there is a video on scraps that I've done, a lot of different ones to help keep you organized. So here you can see how I've got these all trimmed up in here. So make your basic squares, trim them up. Then you want to put 3 together. So let me just grab 3. So you want some different colors. So you're going to put 3 together. So 3 flying geese together. And it makes, when you use 3, 2 will give you a square, but 3 will give you a rectangle. So you can see how you just put, so 3 together. And then the next step, I'm going to do a short strip of color on the top and a small strip or scrap on the bottom. Sew your 3 together, sew a dark or a color on the top, and sew a light on the bottom. So this becomes your square in the middle. So just like we had our square in the middle with our strips on this side, that's what we're doing here, but we have a rectangle in the middle with our flying geese, and now we're going to put a strip on all 4 sides. So here you can see here, this step where I'm working. Think about all these little short leftover scraps that you have that you're like, what am I going to do with them? Well, you're going to use them in the hen house and have a beautiful quilt when you get done. So see, look at all of these that I have going in this step. And when you press, notice that this is the beak. The point is the beak, and notice how we press down over that. We call it breaking the beak. And it just helps keep your flying geese more consistent in a nice straight row instead of starting to turn. And when you press, make sure that you don't let it turn. Because when you press, see, look at this one. See how this one starts to turn a little bit? Those geese are starting to make a little right curve there. And so when you press, don't let them do that. Hold them straight and make your press. And then when you break their beak, I call that putting a bridle in their mouth that helps keep them going in the proper direction. So then after you have your 2 sides on, then you're ready to sew the other 2 sides on. Now this is the long side of your rectangle of your 3 flying geese, and so that means the strips on those sides need to be a little wider because you need that shape, because we're going to get, see how this hen house, this square, so play like I don't have that sewn on there yet. See how that's going to come out of there, just like that. So here is one right here. So see how those start to come together. But let's trim this up, and then we'll look at those other ones. We'll look at our work. Okay. So, what is in the middle? You have a rectangle in the middle. Where are the four corners of that rectangle? Just like four corners of a square. So there, 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 and there. There, 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 and there. Those are the four corners of my rectangle. So I want to leave 1/4 of an inch on all four of those corners so that I have a nice seam allowance and a nice point right there. So once again, just like I used the 90 in the square, I'm going to put the 90 in the rectangle. Now, I do want to point this out. See these right here? They're not a square like this. That's because this was one of those scraps that I trimmed off. So let's back up to this little scraps. So when you trim your blocks off, you saw when I trimmed that one, I had little triangles. So depending on the size you're working with, you're going to have, see how this was on the side and it came off. So look at this one here. Look at this one here. It doesn't look like this. See, this one we used all strips on. And this one, we use these little leftover scraps. So see how you put that little leftover triangle on there and sew it on there just like you would a strip. And it allows you to use up all of those scraps and all of those pieces. So these are all pieces that we had left over. So look at this one right here from a project that we had where we needed to cut our strip at an angle. So
How do you know what size of strip to put on?
Well, we'll talk about sizing here in just a minute. That's a good question. So see how this one was put on like this and then pressed down? And as long as it's wide enough at its widest point to make your shape, then you're good to go. But let me trim this up. Don't let me forget about sizing. Of course, your book is going to tell you all the sizes and have all your charts, but I'll go into detail with that a little bit more. Don't let me forget. Okay, so we're going to come in here and take this 90, just like we did with the square, and these black lines, that's going to go right in that point. So I just push that 90 right in that corner. Here's your black line going over the seam of that rectangle. There's your 1/4 of an inch, hand flat, make your cut. Now see, these are the little trim offs that I was talking about. So see, these could go on the side of your unit, of your basic square. So let's see if this one right here, that one would be a little close on there. It would need to go on one that's just a little bit smaller. In Quilt Club Week and in Premium Club, we have covered these little scraps a lot of how to go back in and use these. So when you're looking, let's look at this quilt up here. So see this one here with all of our dizzy geese on it. All of these color geese inside here and these strips around it all came from scraps that I had. The only thing I cut for this quilt was my red and my blacks and my bigger sashing strips and pieces. And so when I finish with a project, I automatically organize my scraps to go into certain areas. And if I know I always have at least one scrap quilt I'm working on. Lots of times I'll have like 3 different ones I'm working on. So the real small pieces go with this one. A certain color maybe goes with that one. So my scraps are constantly being worked back into another quilt. They're not just thrown in a bin all lazy-daisy. They are folded nice and neat, and they're put into different categories. So when I get ready to work on that project, once again, all I have to do is pick up that tray or box or basket, and I have what I need to work with. And the other thing is that I think if you have to go back in and sort all of these scraps and press them, oh my gosh, you know, you better have a good binge TV show you're watching to get that done. Okay, let's trim. Let's finish trimming. So there's our first trim. Here is our second. So once again, put that in the 90, your black lines over the seam, and then look where you've cut and look at your lines, and are you neat and parallel? Parallel means parallel is like a line and a line that have the same distance in between. So you want the edge of that fabric and those lines to be parallel. Sometimes they'll be right on top, but that, you know, it's like the size you're working with just happens to do that. Okay, so here's my 90 in the corner, black lines over my seam of my rectangle, that's my center. Look here where I've already cut. So see, with that being that little triangle on the end, that's all I had. Last cut, and now you want to check all 4 sides because this is going to keep your square square. So those you can save those, but that has been processed through and you're done with them. Okay, so now we just want to take a rectangle or strip, and you can sew them together like that. So to make this block, this one we call chicken dash or churn. This one I think is churn dash in the book. Let me just. So we're going to see Southern Skies here in a minute. We're going to see Dizzy Geese. This one is Chicks in a Row. We'll look at it. Our Harvest Bounty. Chicken Dash. This one here is called Chicken Dash in the quilt, in the book. Because it's like a churn dash and all the little hens and chickens. Okay, so here's your block. So 2 of these on the side. So those together, and then you're going to have that strip. And see how those get sewn together. And those go together. Let me see here if I have. And then here I have one all sewn together. And there you go, that's your block. When you look at it, you don't see a block that is simple, but you just saw me do it, and you saw how simple it really, really, really is. So now that you know how to make the hen house, which is this right here, see these are all the little chicks and they're inside the square or the house, and that's how hen house block got its name. So questions, and we're going to look at some quilts, and we're going to do sizing here shortly. No questions? Okay. So now you can see how easy it is for me to just put all my work back on that tray. I can get it back to my sewing room, and I'm organized and structured and ready to roll. Okay, let's look at some quilts that we have up here. Let's come down here to this one on the very end. So the one that I was just showing you the placement on and doing is this one right here. And it's just beautiful with all of the scraps. It looks hard, it looks difficult. It really does have an old look to it. So let me pull out one block. See if we have one block here. Okay, so here's one block, the block that we just made. And you can see how you just sew them together in your rows, and your rows go together. Now look when your rows go together, look how you have this interaction right here, that you could put them together like that and have a block all on its own. And when you look here at this center and these coming out like this, it looks kind of like a goose in the cabin pineapple-y type block. And you're like, how do you do that without a bunch of set-in pieces? Everything we do is just straight line sewing, and let the ruler do the magic for you. Let the square and a square system do its work. Get the right tool, the right knowledge, boom, you're ready to go. So every time I pull this one out, and I love vintage, I love old, I love history, I love scrappy, and so this one is just right up my alley. And I can't wait to get this one done. I thought, oh, I'll just make a lap quilt. But, you know, these scraps, just like all these little chicks, they just keep coming. Okay, now let's look at this one. And this one is called Dizzy Geese. And this one we have the Henhouse block in the corners. We have the diamond cut in half for option 18, and we have just a plain square in the middle. And then these are kind of offset on the outside edge, but look how this makes this beautiful circle. And the hardest thing about this quilt is just keeping your direction going when you start sewing these hen houses in. That's the part that is just making sure that you've got it turned so that they make that circle going around that star. So now that we've got this diamond shape here, this is an option 18. Let's look how easy it is to make that. So just like we had the square in the middle with the strips on the side, now we have the diamond in the middle. You can trim leaving 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners and leave it as a whole shape. And we will show you this whole shape in the Storm at Sea and the Harvest Bounty here in just a moment. But when you go back to your ruler, same ruler, just like our question earlier, does the original ruler make everything? Yes, and any size, little to big. So here's your 60, and it's going to go in there like that, and you're going to have that 1/4 of an inch, just like we did with the square and the 90. Trim it up. And then your 120 with a 1/4 goes over here. Now you have a 120 with an 1/8 down here. Don't get confused. That's what we need when we cut it in half. But if you're going to do it as a whole shape, then that 120 has to come over here like this and trim it up. And of course those would go on this side, and you would have your whole shape. We call that an option 7. We'll come back and show you how to use that one here in just a moment. Now to cut these in half to get this star, these star points, so you can see how this comes out of your shape. And you can see there how we're just going to cut it in half. But remember when we did our flying geese, how we had to do that 2-step trim? Obviously these are different colors, but I just want you to remember, and I'm referring back to that 2-step trim so that you could cut it in half. So since this one is our Canadian geese, our flying geese, we have to trim this corner a little different so that we don't lose our points. So first of all, let's come in here. So here's a 1/4 of an inch and a 1/4 of an inch. So your seam and your point's going to be right there. So when I push this up in here and just line it up, see that 1/4 and that 1/4? And there's my point and where my seam will be right there where those two come together. So to do this, you can see how there's just a tiny little bit of fabric off of that edge. It's not the full 1/4 of an inch like you see here. That's the 120 with an 1/8. So here you can see the 120 with the 1/8 in there. So when I make my cut, it's going to make it skinnier than that 1/4. And when I come over here, if I was going to trim this one, see how I have that 1/8 of an inch right there that would come off. So that's how you do it when you cut it in half. And look at these wonderful star points you're going to get. So to do Southern Skies or Dizzy Geese, you would do your hen houses in here. I should have left a hen house out. There we go. So, and notice how all 4 sides are light. We didn't use that dark right there. See this, when you put a dark right there, it makes it look like it's another goose. So when you see it here like this, see how it looks like another flying goose going into the corners. But when you do all of them, you're with light, like we did here, light, 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 then it's just the geese that show up. So see these points? See? And the cool thing I love about this shape is see how the points go out and you get a 2, 4, 6, 8 pointed stars. But if you sew them in like this, can you tell how you're going to get a 4 pointed star? So really super cool, just a lot that you can do. So now we know how these long thin points are going to be made. Let's look at some quilts that use that. So this one here actually becomes, I'm sorry Steve, would you come back down here to this one more time? So this one is what we call a 9 patch. You have 1, 2, 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is put together like a 9 patch. So look at this and come up here and look. So here's your 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's your 9 patch. Then this is your sashing. So see, you got a little square in the corner with a rectangle, 4 geese coming together, and that's on each side. So that's your sashing that goes around the block, is this little outside the circle. These little geese are wanting to get in the roundabout, get in that hen house, get in there. But it makes your circle. Now, I want you to look at the borders here. This is just an awesome, awesome border. So it's just a hen house, and of course it has light here, all 4 sides light. But look how you go to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. And look at that border. It looks so pretty. It looks like you really went out of your way to do something special. And that's just the square and a square system. That's how all of the options are. It looks like you've done a lot of work and done something really special when you're just sewing squares and strips together and trimming with a 1/4 of an inch or doing that 2-step, just depending on what triangle unit you're making. And it's, you know, we may have 44 options now, but like I said, if you understand that it's a basic square or diamond, and you trim leaving a 4th, or you trim doing a 2-step with the square, with the diamond, you're going to trim with an 1/8 sometimes. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. It's still, I've been doing this for 40 years, guys, and I'm still amazed. I still look at these quilts and think, how did I do that? How did I do that? How have I made all of the hundreds and hundreds of quilts that I've made over the years, and they're not just squares put together, just simple patchwork. They're very intricate and beautiful, and I didn't pull my hair out trying to get them made and go together. Okay, let's, so that's that one. Okay, now look at this one. This one, we've just used our hen house in the corners, and we made sure that all of them went out when we did that block. So this is the block, just like that. So once again, it's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I did the hen houses so that they all are going out through that corner. And I did a sashing with a cornerstone, and look what you get right here. You get almost that same little block that we had before, but let's look at the difference. Okay, so this one right here, see that light in there? And then on this one, see we have that color or that dark because we put that colored strip on the end, and it brings it all the way in. And see here, it's a light one. So these kind of float. They haven't, these little chicks are still flying. They haven't got into their little hen house yet. And this one is also a great setup if you really are matchy-matchy with all your points and stuff, then this one right here is a good one to do because you don't have any points coming together. You don't have to worry about the matchy-matchy. Okay, and then let's look at this one. I just made the 6 blocks as a sample when I was teaching hen house and doing it, but I fell in love with the little block so much. I want to make more. I want to And that's the thing. I can't tell you how many people have said, I am so addicted to the hen house. And they are. It's very addicting. So Scotty says, I can't wait to use my scraps to make the hens and chicks. It brings movement to the quilt. Yes, that's the thing is that when I started quilting over 40 years ago, I realized the beauty of the quilt is that motion and movement in the quilt. And the way that you get that, it's with triangle units. But the triangle units are where the hassle and the hard work and the headache is at. So I just started looking for a way to get all these triangle units and all these shapes and remove the human element. The human element is the cutting, the sewing, and the pressing. So if we do all the cutting and the sewing and the pressing over in these forms, and then we trim it up, and then when we trim it up, we have the ability to even improve on it. It's just, the angels were singing, let me tell you. Okay, so this one is Dizzy Geese here, and this one over here is Southern Skies. Now, Southern Skies so look at this one. See how this one has just a plain square in the middle of the star? And look at this one, how it has the option 1 in the middle. So that's the difference. These points all go out. These points circle. And then, so here is the block on it, just like that. And it sews right next to the secondary block. So all we did was, where the star points are, we just did a plain square. No star points. And when the blocks come together, look how you have that little shape coming together. Now you could do a sashing in between here and do a cornerstone like we had in that other one, and that would give you another little look.
What's the name of that blue one you pulled?
This one is, I think it's Chicken Dash. It's in your hen house book. So let's put the camera down here and let's look. So Southern Skies is the one that's behind me to the left. Let's look at it real quick, Steve. Sorry, let's bounce. This one is Southern Skies here. And you will find Southern Skies in 3 places. You can order it as an individual pattern. You can get it in the hen house book, or it's in the Mealy book. Now, it's very rare for a quilt to be in that many different locations. Sometimes people order that pattern and they order the hen house, and Steve always fixes it so that you don't pay for both of those, okay? So let's look down here again, and let's look. Here is our Southern Skies is in there, and this is our charts. This is sizing. We'll come back to that in just a minute. And here's your pattern for it, and then here's your Dizzy Geese, and you have a full pattern for it, several pages. And then that one that I just had up there was Chicks in a Row. Really pretty, I like it. And then we have Harvest Bounty. You haven't seen that one yet. We're going to do it and the Storm at Sea at the same time because it's the same. And then we have Chicken Dash, which is that one I spent a lot of time showing you. That was all scrappy. And then let's look at this one here. Look at this one. So this one shows just a little bit different. So we've got 2 coming together. So here you can see we did 2, and the geese were different scrappy colors. Now the wings, the strips that we went around, so it'd be like here, the strips that we did going around, see, those are black. So it gave you colors for the body and then dark wings. And then when we did the sew around strips, we did a color, and then we did 3 backgrounds. And look how when you put 4 of them together, look at that really cool star. Love, love, love that one. And so this is just 4 of these, boom, 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 going together. Looks like a lot of hard work with all these angles and everything, but nope. And this 4 triangles coming together, that's the magic. So when you put 4 of these together, then you've got your quarter triangles in a square. Okay, so in your book, on your chart, let's talk about sizing. when you get this book or you get your reference book, it has charts in it for your sizing. Now, it's a big deal to understand the difference in a cut and a sewn, and when you read your charts, you're going to have to look at what the chart is asking for. Okay, so when you see this little hen house, see these outside edges, see how it's raw? It's a raw edge, so it's a raw edge. It's a cut edge. And even though this little hen house is finished, it is not a finished size because it still has raw edges and cut edges. So that means it's unfinished. Now the quilt world uses unfinished and they use finished. Unfinished means it still has a raw edge or a cut edge, and it is a larger size because you have that seam allowances on there. So that is all one. Now when it gets sewn into a quilt and there's no raw edges and it's the smaller size, it is called finished, which I do not use the words unfinished and finished because I don't know if you know what I'm talking about when I do that. And when you give me these words, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. Because when you look at this hen house, you can say, oh, that hen house is finished. But it is not a finished size. It still has raw edges, so it's going to be larger. So the smaller size is finished, sewn. So that means, does it have a sewn edge on it? No. Or graph paper. And when you're working on pattern adapting, you would always start back with this smaller size and the graph paper. So when you look at your charts, up at the top of your chart, it's going to say cut or it's going to say sewn. And so it's really important that you look at the top of your chart in your book and know what measurement you're looking at. And that's sometimes where I have to become a quilt detective and find out what someone is looking at. Okay, let's go one more step with this. This is a half square triangle, HST. It's also an option 4 of the square and a square system. And if it has raw edges on it, let's look at, so look at this little one right here. See, it's got raw edges on it. See that seam right there? There's no raw edges right there. So this is a cut size. So it's cut size or it's a raw edge size. So let's say that it's 2.5 with a cut or raw. That means that when you sew, and you sew 1/4 of an inch everywhere, it's going to sew down to a 2 inch. So see how the cut or raw edge is larger, and then the sewn size is smaller. So when you're looking at your charts, you've got to look up at there at the top of those charts, and does it say sewn or does it say cut? Now when you're building a quilt, you're working in this graph paper. With the charts, you don't have to go back to graph paper, but that's where basically that's where you're at. But you have to work with the graph paper size, and then the charts convert them over to sewn. Now on the in the Firefly book, we have expanded the charts, so you're going to get bigger flying geese and bigger half square triangles. In those charts in the Firefly book. So when you look here, let's look at what we've got going. So this is our hen house right here, and it's going to say and option 5, which is put anything in the middle. So we put 3 flying geese in the middle. So it says option 5 using 3 flying geese as the center. So this is what we've got right here. And then this one says option 3, and then surround strips. And then when we go down, that next one, it talks about everything in this column would be a cut, everything in this would be a sewn, everything in this is a sewn, everything in this column is a cut, 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 cut. So you've got to look at the top. And when you're working with your number, you've got to know which number you're working with. Are you working with a cut or raw, or are you working with a sewn? So when I go down, let's see what it's telling me. So this shape right here is this very first column. And it says that it will be the cut size of 4 inches, and it sews down to 3.5. And so if that's the size you want, if you want this to be a 4-inch henhouse, then your option 3 right here are going to be a 1 by 2, and then you've got to start out like this, and this is your center square. So right here it says option 3, your cut center square is going to be 2 1/4, and your surround strips are going to be 1. And then this surround strips, this second column, is for your second row of surround strips. And see how you have a short or skinny width, and here you have a long and a wider width, and that's what these surround strips are your surround strips for your henhouse. So all of your books, all of your charts have all of this information on there so that you can make stuff any size that you want to make. A lot of numbers in a book. So I had a guy here making me some shelves for my closet the other day, and he was like, "What size do you want it?" And so I, measured it and showed it and everything. He said, "Are you sure about those measurements?" And I'm like, he knows me, and I'm like, this is what I do every day, all day long, is I measure and I cut, and I measure and I cut. He's like, okay, I'll just do it the way you say. And it turned out perfect. And I loved it. Okay, let's
So what
look.
about option 5 chart? Is that different? Somebody's asking about it.
Let me see how I can explain
Can
this.
you go over the option 5 chart in the henhouse book before you close?
At the very end, okay, what's the exact question?
Can you go over how to use option 5 chart in the henhouse book before you are done?
Okay, I think if you go back, if you have your henhouse book, go to the very opening page and just look at it and study it and go back and watch what I did, because I did it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it came in later.
Okay, so maybe her question came in before I did that.
Before we talked.
Okay, but let's go over it again, because that's how we learn, with repetition.
And then you mentioned the 1 by 2 off that chart. And then a question about that too.
Okay. Okay, so if you are brand new to square and a square, if you're brand new to square and a square, and if I say option 4 and you don't know it's a half square triangle, then you're not ready to start with pattern adapting. You first need to learn the options, and we have videos that we did last year. They're everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Quilt Club Week, Premium Club, they're everywhere. This is your option overview notebook, and you need to go in and watch those and make those, because that's going to help, like the review I read, embed it down in your brain. So think about this. If you showed me a picture, if you sent me on the quilt text hotline a picture of a quilt that you want to make, and I'm going to say, yeah, you're just going to make, that's just half square triangles and flying geese. You should know that an option 3 is a flying goose and an option 4 is half square triangles. Or maybe I say, yeah, that's just option 3s and option 4s. That's easy. You should know that's flying geese and half square triangles. So those are the main ones, option 1, 3, and 4. You need to know those. And the reason why they're the main ones is because those are the #1 shapes that you make for quilts, and those are the #1 options and the trimming of the square and a square system. So you go in and make your basic squares. You trim option 1s. You make option 2s. you make your option 3 flying geese. It teaches them in order, and it also teaches them in a family order. And the family order is about the characteristics of them. If I say you need to make option 3 flying geese, do you know how to trim that automatically in your mind? Do you know I leave 1/4 of an inch at the top and bottom, and I 2-step the sides? So that's some of this, embedding it in your brain, understanding that and knowing that. So go back in, watch those videos, get those pistons pumping and those spark plugs cleaned off, and knowing what you're doing, okay? So here we're working with flying geese. So here it is a rectangle. It's an option 3. It's a flying geese. Okay, so if we're talking sewn size, then let's say this is 2 inches here sewn, this direction, then that means this direction is double. It's 4 inches. So this is a 2x4 sewn. That means cut, it's a 2.5 by 4.5. Okay, so especially with flying geese and half square triangles, this is where everybody gets messed up. I can't tell you, probably 7 out of 10 emails will come in, or quilt text lines, and they'll say, I need a finished option 3 flying goose that is 2.5 by 4.5. Well, a 2.5 by 4.5 is a cut size. It's not a finished size. Finished size is 2x4. And the reason why I know this when I automatically look at it is because whatever the short side is, you double it, and that's the long. If this is short side's 2.5 and I double it, then that means that's 5. So you can see how when people send me information, and if they use finished and unfinished, I'm like, I don't know that you know what you're talking about, because they'll tell me they have a finished 2.5 by 4.5, and I know that a 2.5 by 4.5 is an unfinished, because this you have to double, short side, double it for the long side. Okay, so now that you know this, let's come back in here and look at this chart and see if I have some examples to go.
I think on this chart, they're looking at the option 3 part.
Yeah. There it is. Okay. Okay, so up here at the top, it says option 5. Well, do you know what an option 5 is? An option 5 is when you put anything in the middle. So today you've seen solid square in the middle, and you've seen a diamond in the middle. And option 5 is when you put anything in the middle. Well, what's anything? Anything is anything. So I could teach for 48 hours straight with no breaks and still have examples that could go in the middle that I haven't covered. So option 5 means anything in the middle. And an option 5 and an option 1, when you look at your chart in your reference book, so in your reference book, starting on page 34, you've got 12 pages of charts. Okay, and when you look, this is your main reference book for the square. So when you look at on page 34 and you look at your charts, you see that option 1 and option 5 are in the same chart, because you're going to put anything in the middle, and in here it's going to represent a square. In our hen houses, it's a rectangle. But and you trim, leaving that 1/4 of an inch on all the corners. So when I look at this and it says option 5, it should automatically click in your head that that's going to be like an option 1, where you leave a 1/4 of an inch on all 4 of your outside corners. Okay, so option 5, that means I'm going to leave the 1/4 of an inch on all the corners, and it says using 3 flying geese as my center. 1, 2, 3. So there's a lot of different stuff up here, because sometimes you don't know where you're starting. It's kind of like, I always say it's kind of like cooking. So you're like, what's for supper? Well, whatever you got in the pantry or in the fridge. So you're going to go in there and look, and you're going to be like, okay, I've got a 6 eggs. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. So you're building your meal around what you have, your eggs. So it may be that you have a bunch of flying geese and you're thinking, ooh, I want to make a hen house. But you already have these made, and so you need to know what this is going to be with the eggs that you've already got. Does that make sense? So that's what this next column is. It's your egg column for your hen house. So this is just an option 3, just a plain flying goose right here. We've talked about the difference in the cut and sewn, and so when you look at your chart, it's giving you the sewn sizes. So if you've got something like this with raw edges, you're going to have to back it back down to this number and work with that smaller sewn number. So here you can say a 1 by 2. A 1 1/4 by 2 1/2. So you can see it just steps up in 1/4 of an inch increments. And of course, all of these on this row go together. All of these on this row go together. So you're maybe not on this chart, you're maybe not starting out with this of what you want. You maybe are starting out with this of what you have. And so measure it, find it here on your option 3 chart, and then go to the left and go to the right, and it will give you the information you need for here.
It's a good time to use a text line.
And a good time to use a text line. Did someone say that or you?
No, I did.
Okay, so maybe you don't have your flying geese made. Maybe you just know you need that size of a flying goose. So this one here, option 3, is going to tell you this. It's your cut center square, and it's your surround strips. So maybe you're like, I've got a bunch of 2 1/4 inch scraps. What size would my hen house be if I have 2 1/4 inch squares? So maybe that's where you start, is with your cut center square, and then you could work to the left and the right to see what you're going to get. So from a 2 1/4 inch center square, you're going to get a 4 inch hen house. So you can start with any of those columns depending on what you've got. And then this one is your surround strips for your hen house. So that's these right here. See, you have your square in the middle and your surround strips. Now you have your hen house and your surround strips. Okay? All right. So if you're brand new to the system, starting with the hen house chart is probably not the best place to start. And I always tell everybody, this is time of year that we have lots of new beginners. And so I always tell everybody that it's like working a puzzle. You're going to get maybe 3 pieces over here that go together of, you know, like thinking about the system. You're like, okay, these 3 pieces fit together. I get it. I understand it. And then you're going to come over here and work on this little project, and you're going to be like, oh, this has got 20 pieces that have come together, and now I get it. And then as you just keep doing it and doing it, then all of these pieces just start connecting, and pretty soon you have the whole picture. Because, I mean, you're 40 years. I've been doing this for 40 years, and we just keep adding more and more and more.
So the flying goose is actually a rectangle for instead of the option 5. The normal option 5 has a square in the middle.
Normal option 5 is a square in the middle.
And so the other, you have 2 different strip sizes.
Yes.
On the flying geese.
Yeah. So see, if you have a square in the middle,
hen house.
then your strips are all the same width and length.
That's why we kind of started calling this option 43, because it's different than the
Yeah. So actually, you know, it says option 5 on the book because option 5 is put anything in the middle, but it's really option 43 because when you understand the family and the sequence of all the options, so option 3 is flying geese, option 9 builds off of flying geese, option 15 builds off of flying geese, option and then you've got your diamond shapes that build off the flying geese, and then you've got this hen house that builds off of that. So, yeah, when we were doing it, Steve's like, it should be option 43, and I'm like, but it's an option 5, and then we're like, but it's got a chart, so if it has its own chart, then it has its own number. So we're getting a lot of hybrids here. Is it a chicken or is it a duck?
So we'll probably rename that.
Yeah, when we go
Chart
back to
and book.
print,
Yeah.
we'll redo that for. So the first 7 options are the basic options, and everything builds off of those options. Everything. So if you learn those first 7, then those are the characteristics. And the reason why we call it a family is because it's like, in my family, it's all girls, it's all blue eyes, it's all blonde hair, it's all under 5'4". You know, we have characteristics as a family. But then I have my oldest sister that's really talented in dance, and so those are her characteristics that she's passed on to her kids. All of her kids are very musical, dance, theater, all of that. And then my other sister, who's just a business guru, she can take anything and knock it out of the park as far as that goes. And so her characteristics are passed on in her family. Mine, the sewing, my other sister, just crafty and everything. So you take your characteristics and pass it on to your family. So that option 1, where you trim the 1/4 of an inch on all 4 corners, is passed on into that family tree, which is option 2 and option whatever. You just keep going. And then the flying goose family member is passed on. That trimming of leave a 4th 2-step. So in that option overview, we break all that down. And I've had multiple students text me over the years and like, oh, once you explained it as those family tree and characteristics, she said her light bulb just went a little brighter. Okay, so that's great. So another question, we're going to move on to a couple of other quilts. Let's see if we've got everything up here we wanted to see. Wanted you to make sure that you can see these Henhouse quilts, borders, and just all the extras, sashings, and everything that you can do. Okay, let's look down here at this one. This one is Love of Country, this little quilt, and I showed it, all of it, in one of the other Tuesday videos we did here in quilt season. Quilt season is 6 weeks. It goes from mid-August to end of September as we build up to Quilt Club Week. So look at this one right here. I love this little block. This one was one that we did in a fall semester. It was called Love of Country, and I have 1 kit left for it on the website. Okay, so 3 flying geese. Look at these hen houses, and can you look at this and tell what's different? Tell me what's different about this hen house and this hen house. Okay, so first of all, we've got light surround strips on all of it. But look how we have the dark chick with the light wing. And it's opposite here. We have a light chick with a dark wing. And so the color, this dark, is what you see in the design, and it's those that shoot out, which makes it look more like a star. And that's the same, same thing here. It's a light center with the dark wings. So here we have a hen house. All we did was switch up color. Then we have traditional geese headed south. And then here we have the hen house again. So this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's set together in a 9-patch fashion. So let's look at the middle one. The middle one is just a plain square here with the 4 geese coming in. And then the bottom row is the same as the top. Look at this. Look, I mean, you would look at that and you would think, oh my stars, how in the world do you get all of these moving in the correct direction, and then you make 12 blocks for the quilt? It's like, how do you do that? That's a lot of work. But with the square and a square system, we add the speed and the accuracy, the right tool and the right knowledge, and you stack the deck in your favor. And let me tell you, these hen houses are addictive, addictive, addictive. And it's not just me, it's other people. And there's probably plenty on the comment thread that just talk about how addicted that they have been with their hen houses. They're so fun to do. And really this sewing, when you're doing your sewing for all these little basic squares, this is just brainless. You can just sit down and do this without even thinking. Just crazy, crazy how mindless it is. Okay, let's look. Let's look here at the Storm at Sea, because this one has Square in a Square students are making Storm at Sea like eating popsicles. I mean, just one right after the other. They are so beautiful and they're doing such a great job. We introduced Storm at Sea, 30 years ago with the Square in a Square system, but in 19 we started teaching it. We had this special batik fabric, and then in Quilt Club Week last year, like I said earlier, Sherry did and I did a lecture with the Storm at Sea, and we just showed all the different versions and possibilities. So here you can see that in this row here, you see the option 7 diamond, where we left that 1/4 of an inch trim, and an option 1. So option 7, option 1, option 7, option 1. This is the most easiest thing right here that you can make, your option 7s and your option 1s. And then in the next row, we have that same option 7 going vertical. See, here they are horizontal, and here it is vertical. And then this one right here is the option 2. So see, this was our square in the middle. We sew our strips on, trim leaving the 1/4 of an inch. Then we sew strips on again, and see, they get wider and longer because this is our square now, and this square is bigger than this square, so our strips have to get longer and wider. If you use the same size of strip that you used here, no fear, don't worry, you just started a pineapple quilt. That's option 12. So option 2, option 7 vertical, option 2, option 7 vertical. So horizontal 1, horizontal, option 1. And look how these rows just alternate. Now we're back to the horizontal, option 7 and option 1. Now if you want this wave in here, you really have to pay attention to your dark in your diamond and your dark in your last surround strip. Dark in your diamond, dark in your last surround strip, and you get this great movement and wave going through your quilt. Now other color values will make your star pop out. You can kind of see a star right there. With that, you can make that pop out. There's about 5 or 6 different designs in here that will pop out, and it all has to do with the color, where you put the color. Now look at this great border. This is just your option 7 diamond right there, just like that. Just one right after the other, and there's your nice border. Okay, now this one is in the volume 1 reference book, and the teaching, the wonderful lecture was in Quilt Club Week of 23 that Sherry and I did. Okay, now I want you to look at this one. This one is in the Henhouse book. So let's look and see what the difference is. Can we zoom out a little bit? Is that, there we go. Okay, so now you can see this blue star shape right here, kind of like a Christmas ornament or a Christmas star. Okay, so remember we had the row that was diamond horizontal and option 1. So let's look for that here. So we have diamond horizontal and just a plain square. So this row and this row. How easy is that? That's even more easy than this because we don't have to make the option 1. And then in the next row, we have the diamond vertical with the option 2. So let's see what the next one is. Here is our diamond vertical, And instead of an option 2, what do we have? A little hen house. So let's see how we did our color on this hen house, because this one's different than the others. So our square in the middle for our very beginning was a color, and then we had the light strips. We put the 3 together. We did gold on the short ends, green on the longer ends, and we made up our little hen house. Just like that. Now see, this one has raw edges. You can see that it's a little bit bigger. So here you can see raw edges, and here you can see sewn size. Because see, there's no raw edges, it's all sewn. And there's your sewn size right there. And, I mean, you look at this quilt and it looks just exquisite and so beautiful. But then we break it down and you're like, oh my gosh. So all of our diamonds were light with the same dark on the corners. So you want to keep some consistency to it so it doesn't look too wild. And then our hen houses were all the same with the golds and greens, but our colors in here changed due to our scrappiness. And then our plain squares in here all stayed with orange, but different values, different fabrics of orange. So this quilt and this quilt have the same characteristics. They're in the same family. They have vertical diamond, they have horizontal diamond. Plain square, option 1, option 2, hen house. So let's put this up on the wall so they can see the whole thing. And this one's in your hen house book, and it is called Autumn Splendor, or Autumn Bounty, or something like that. Harvest Bounty, something like that. Just look at that. Isn't that just wonderful? Now with this one, because of the color value, because you have the dark here and the dark here for the points, that the points show up better when you have the gold on there. But what happens is when you zoom back out, okay, so you see, let me see, do you see? Yeah, so you see this going through here like this. And then these become kind of a little medieval looking shape, cross type shape thing. And to me, you really get a lot of curve. Looks like you've got some curves in here. I just love that quilt. Love it, love it. Okay, any questions or comments? We've got 2 more quilts to look at.
Is there a video on cutting the center diamond shape with your ruler?
Yes, if you are Quilt Club Week or, okay, so cutting the diamond. Cutting the diamond is just like the square. If you're going to cut a square, you cut your strips and then you come in here and chop, chop, chop your square. Cut your diamond, you're going to cut your strip, and then you use the ruler at the angle and just come in and cut that same angle through that strip. It's really very easy to do. If you are Premium Club or Quilt Club Week, the best video, when we made the video, we did it last year in 2023, and the quilt is called Postage Stamp Star. Go to Quilt Club Week, and it is the most,
It's a premium member.
it's the most in-depth teaching on the diamond and the beginning steps of that diamond. And so you need to put that on a favorites. You need to write that in your notebook. That's a very common question that we get from a lot of people. Postage Stamp Star. It's the most in-depth on doing the diamond basic square, doing the option 7, and doing the option 18. And it shows points out, it shows points in. Like I said, it covers everything. I can't make a video that shows more than that one. It covers it all. Okay? All right. Now, let me say one more thing about the diamond, and then I'm going to show the last 2 quilts, and we're going to be done here in just a few minutes. So if you have any questions or comments, get them in. Square and Square .net is the teaching one, where you go in and watch webinars, Quilt Club Week, Premium Club. If you go to squareandsquare.com, that is the product page where you see the sale items and the patterns and the books and all that. And then also on squareandsquare.com, that's where you can go and join up for Quilt Club Week join up for
They can
Premium
do that
Club.
on .net as well.
And you can do that on .net too. So do that. Do that, do that. You won't be sorry. I promise.
Okay,
Our
there's a-
members are love it, love it, love it.
that one you had over here, before, one of the most recent ones you had over
Love
here.
of Country.
Yes.
Okay,
The
Love
one-
of Country.
Did it have a certain size of that Henhouse that you showed?
I think it's the same size that I used in all of them. Of course, if you're in the Henhouse book, you're just going to go in here and look for. You're just going to go here and look for the size of Henhouse that you want.
And what is that? That's called, the quilt is called what?
This quilt is called Love of Country.
And it's in premium.
Yes, if you're Premium Club, it's called Love of Country, and this is one of the blocks that are in there, and I have one kit left for it.
But you don't know the size.
Of this
per
block,
se.
it's probably a 12 and a half cut. Let's just look. No, looks like it was a 10-inch block.
Okay.
And these look like these are about 4 and a half. Of course, it's been quilted, so it always shrinks up. Has not been washed, but quilting always shrinks it up a little bit. Okay. I'll put it up so that you can see all of it. So that is the Love of Country quilt. And there's one kit left for it. And sometimes I do offer different appliques in the Premium Club, but you can always substitute it. I give suggestions when I do of what to substitute in there if you don't want it. And usually in a quilt like this, it's a theme that everything is a divisible by 3 or divisible by 12, 2, whatever. That way any of these blocks can be put together. Okay, now this one here is, I'm sorry, do we have another question?
Just a couple comments.
Okay, comments. Henhouses are so addictive because the process goes super fast and you're using the smaller pieces and getting fabulous.
Colors in an organized fashion.
Yes, fabulous colors in an organized fashion. I like that. So yeah, those Henhouses are. Petra says, I haven't worked with my Henhouse book, but after this teaching, I think I'm able to use it. Thanks for this great teaching. Yes, Petra, you always show such wonderful things on Facebook. Your color sense is great. I'm excited to see those when those pop up. You're going to get all those little chicks in a row and those little Henhouses going. Yay! I love it, love it. Okay, let's look down here at so this one right here, I'll show you the whole quilt and hang it up in just a minute. This is the cover quilt for the Firefly book. So there's the Firefly book. And this little star we're looking at are these down here in the corner, and then it's also in the middle. And this is, because we have this special on these 3 books, this one is the snowball block. And this is the option 41, option 41 of the snowball. And that's one of the books in that trio that you.
Snowball in the middle.
Yeah, so let's use our little boards, our little white poster boards, and let's look at our snowball block. So see how the snowball block has little triangles in the corner, so it looks kind of like an 8-sided unit. And then let's just bring down this. So these were plain squares in the corner, and this was actually an option 40. So an option 40 is when you have 4 triangles that are the same size in a square. So we made our option 40, and then we just came in and cut it off to make it the size we wanted. And look how it interacts with that option 41, and you've got that marvelous little 8 triangles going around that looks like once again, it looks hard. It's like, how do you do that? How do you get that little triangle in there? I don't want to do that. And then you've got this blunted side on a triangle. Well, we're just going to do an option 40 and then cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. And then it's, see these, see all of these half square triangles in a row, and see how the angles change and colors change, directions. This is a firefly. Now, what makes half square triangles a pain for all of us is that with a half square triangle, let me see if I can grab one in here. Oops. Okay. With a half square triangle, let's say like on this one right here, you've got one way to sew it in so that your color is going in the correct direction. But you have 4 sides on it and only one of them is right. So you got 1 chance out of 4 of sewing it in there correctly with the angle and the color going the way that it's supposed to do. With the firefly, the way that we cut them and use them and sew them together, you're sewing these in and it cannot be turned wrong. That's the cool thing about a firefly, is there is no way to sew that firefly in wrong. You will not be sewing on one of the wrong 3 sides. You'll always be sewing on the correct side. And so we're going to do more fireflies next week, and that is just so super cool. And if you can't wait, go look for the Firefly book video. It was April of 23 is when we did the video for the Firefly. And you can just go in and put in, the cool thing about the new, it's not a new website, but it's a new program in the website, is that before we just had all these hundreds of hours of videos and webinars and Premium Club, and it's like, okay, I know she's taught Firefly a million times, but where is it? I need it right now to learn it. So you can just go into that search bar and put Firefly in. Less words you use, the better. Then it doesn't have to think as much. Just put Firefly in there and boom, it'll pop up in those videos, wherever it's at. So super cool. Also, if you're Premium Club, you can go into the technique section. And just think about the website. The way that I think about them is like the website is like the quilt shop. And you walk into the door of the quilt shop. You type in squareandsquare.com and you walk into the website or the quilt shop. Over here, you can look at this at the quilt shop. Over here, they've got flannels. Over here, they've got whatever, you know. And so all of these little modules inside there are different categories of different things. And so there's one part of the quilt shop, one part of the website that's technique. So you go in there and look, and it's got the binding tool, and it's got setting a block on point. It's got seam allowances. It's got, you know, everything that grande ruler, firefly. It's got all of, and those are the videos that we've done that I have done my best to stay on cue with what I'm teaching and go from start to finish. We don't normally do those live. We usually just come to the film studio and just Steve and I just bump it out so that I don't get sidetracked with questions and I don't, you know, whatever. I can stay on point and just follow right through in the progress of that. And so to me, in that technique section of the website of .net is go in there and just play those videos one right after the other, after the other, after the other. I'm staying focused on whatever it is I'm teaching, okay? So this one was the medallion star, and it was on the cover. And this one all came to be because one of our Premium Club members wanted this pattern adapted over to Square and a Square, and at retreat, we do our spring retreat in April, and so we adapted it over to Square and a Square, and I was like, oh, those fireflies, that was really, you know, pushed me to figure out a way to make these so that we're not constantly, you know, if you've got 32 half square triangle units in there, you're probably going to rip 18 times out of 32 because half square triangles just twist and turn on you. So anyway, Firefly, it was a good chance to come in here and show more with option 41 Snowball. It was a good chance to come in here and show option 40, the 4 triangles coming together and doing a little extra trim on it. Option 6 is use your imagination. Take an option, and that's what we did. We took option 40, 4 triangles coming together, adapt it to what you need. And so, you know, that could be that's an option 6. We took an option 40 and we cut part of it off to get that little short triangle right there. So you can see how it's key to learn those beginning ones, options 1 through 7. It's key to learn those 6 family members, and then I'm sorry?
Have its own language.
Yeah, and then bring them down. I don't know. I grew up knowing how to crochet, but not knit. And so, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I got the bug to learn how to knit. I started knitting and trying to read a pattern, and I didn't have a clue. It was a total another language. You have to learn those language. And that's kind of like with quilting in the traditional quilt world. HST, half square triangles. LOF, length of fabric. You know, you just have to learn those abbreviations on stuff and know what they are. Otherwise, it's like reading another language. So you have to come in and learn the square and a square language so that you can do it. And it's just, if you know music, then, you know, it's just like a graph of notes, and, you know, you can do a C and a sharp and a, you know, whatever. I'm not a music person. I love music, but I don't know about it. You know, that like with a knitter, you can say, well, you can do I don't even, it's been so long since I've a knit. Yeah, so once I realized in my little pea brain on the knit world that there was a knit and a purl, and then it was just a combination of all of that, I thought it's just like square and a square. You either leave a 1/4 of an inch or you do the 2-step. You either knit or you either purl, and then you have all these adaptions of the knit and all these adaptions of the purl. So you have all these adaptions of leaving the 1/4 of an inch and all these adaptions of doing the Texas 2-step trim. So it was just like, the light bulb moment finally went off, but it did take a couple of years. But I was not immersing myself 15 minutes a day. Remember, that's key. 15 minutes a day, you learn something, you read something, you study something, you watch a video, and you'll be amazed how quickly it will start building in layers and your knowledge increase. Oh, I think I told them yesterday in premium class, I love to learn knowledge about the brain. I think it helps me become a better teacher, to understand how the brain works and how people learn. But it's also just fun facts. I love fun facts. So your brain is 2% of your body weight. But your brain, all those little neurons firing in there, use 20% of your energy that you have. So that's huge. So, you know, after a class like this, my brain is tired. After a class like this, your brain is tired, and it's because you're thinking and you're learning, and all those little firing stations that are going off. Okay, last quilt. Get your questions in if you have any. We're going to be done here in just a couple of minutes. So this one down here is the snowball. It's the one that's on the cover of the Snowball book, and you can see the corners on there, making the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, making it octagon. Then you can put anything in the middle. I did a little English paper piecing little petal flower, and I did them in every other square. So I had just a plain one. But look how these corners come together and make those 4 triangles, which 4 triangles coming together is an option 40. So think about, you know what, let's just do this real quick. I love a teaching moment. Okay, let's look back down here again. Okay, so I talked about here in this one how we put the 4 triangles together for option 40. So here's like 4 triangles together. That would be an option 40, but of course we did it with the snowball, because if you did this at a 40 and then tried to sew it in with this, it would just be a mess. So we want to keep everything a square. But see how we just had that little short one there? So if you make your option 40 and then just come in here and cut part of it away, see how you have that same shape. And then of course you would have this little shape. And when you look at this little shape here, so it's not a waste, it's just a byproduct that you come in and use, and the book will show you how to use those. But let me see. Okay, can they see that one? Okay, so there's your little shape right there. So when you look at that, your black and your red, when you look at this rectangle, do you see how it's the same as this? So you've got another little shape that you can put like on a square. Let me see if the book shows us. So you don't have any waste. I always show you how to go in and use your extras, your byproducts. Okay, so here you can see how some of these little corners are and how you can trim them up and get that whole unit. So these little corners here. So if you know, just something real simple, look how we put 4 squares together and then sewed those on the end to get your little shape. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this looks like a lot of work, and you're really just using a scrap, a trim off. Okay, last minute questions from anyone? Okay. So remember that I believe that every quilter can make most every quilt that are out there. All you have to do is have the right tools of the square and a square system and the knowledge of how to use them, and then just apply yourself, and that's all there is to it. You can become the piecer that you've always dreamed of. You can make gorgeous, beautiful, exquisite quilts from very simple, we show very simple, up into the ones that look more elaborate. Lots of times people have like a beginner, intermediate, advanced on a quilt, and so you would look at one that says intermediate or advanced and think, well, I'm not that. I don't have that skill level. I can't do that. But with the square and a square system, you can. All it takes is just knowing how to use the tools and how to get there. We have everything that you need. We have the books, we have the rulers, we have the fabric if you need fabric, we have the teaching, and it's available to you no matter where you're at, all over the earth, any time of the day or night. As Steve says, quilting never sleeps when you have the online ability to go in and watch and learn. So we back up everything that we sell, every book, every tool, every pattern with a video teaching on there, so that you're not lost and you're not stranded and you're not alone no matter where you're at. So build up that confidence, jump in there and decide to do something that you want to do. And sometimes there's stuff I need to do, and sometimes there's stuff I want to do, and you need to go wherever your creativity is going. Like, you know, I may think, oh, I need to work on class for Monday when my video is over, but if my brain isn't there, I go to something that I know I can do without thinking, because I've burned up all of my neurons during my teaching. So like I always say, you can become the piecer you want to. Start doing it, learn the options, jump in there and make a little quilt. The ruler comes with a little book with some little projects in it, from beginner to, I always like to show you at the end of a book that there's more. So the book, you know, the patterns or whatever get harder as you go through. But I shouldn't say harder, because when you look at a quilt, whether you realize it or not, there's 2 things that you think about. One of them is, do I have the skill level to make that? Look at all of that. Do I have the skill level to make that? And the other one is, do I have the time to make that? And with the square and a square system, it speeds you up, it gives you accuracy, it turns difficult stuff into easy work, because this is all it is. And then you put that little magic ruler on it and trim it up. And it removes the human element. You know, sometimes you know, just with step 1 or 2 of making a quilt, some quilt that's out there, then you're already trying to figure out how to fix it, because it's not going the way you want it to. Well, that doesn't happen with square and a square. You stay motivated, you stay excited, you get stuff done. And we love to help you do it. So come along this quilting journey with us. You won't be sorry. Come, and if you're you know, thinking, I'm not quite sure, jump in and join Quilt Club Week. Quilt Club Week will teach you quilts, and it will teach you square and a square, but we also offer in Quilt Club Week more crafty sewing. You know, there's going to be pillowcases and pillow shams and little crafty sewing projects. So that's where we do some of that other stuff. We do square and a square, and we do big quilts like this one. You can go back and look at the last 2 videos that we did. Oh, everything's all covered up, but just everything. Just come join us. Come have fun. You'll see. If you're not happy, then just email us and say, I am not happy, and we'll fix it. But no one's ever done that, because they're all happy. We can fix it. We're like, no problem. We can fix that. So come in and up your game. Become the quilter you've always dreamed about. Making those quilts that you thought were just beyond your reach are now right there at your fingertips. We will see you Monday, Premium Club members, and Tuesday we will see you in the live webinar. We're going to do fireflies. We'll see you then.